Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to talk about something that I have found fascinating for so long. If you're one of my good friends, then you will probably know what I'm talking about. Basically, in Chinese and in English we have lots of sayings. Both languages have lots of sayings, and I've always liked idioms since I've been young. But what I find fascinating is that some of these sayings or phrases, they mean the same thing, but the words are slightly different. You'll see what I mean when I give you an example. So the one that got me so interested in this initially is, you know, these little small lines that we get when we smile, like these lines. In English, we call these crow's feet, right? But in China, they call these, anybody know? They call these Yue Wen, which means I think this is so fascinating because obviously you can see why it looks like a fish's fin. You can see why somebody would call it that. But since I've grown up, I've always known these as crow's feet. So the second one, one word, when we're cold and our skin gets kind of little bumps on it. In English, we call this feeling, we say, oh, I've got goosebumps, right? Even maybe if you hear some really good music, or if you're cold, you will get goosebumps. However, in Chinese, they call this鸡皮疙瘩. Which basically means chicken skin. So I guess it's kind of related because we call it goose bumps. I guess that's from the bumps on a goose, but they call this chicken skin. So again, I think this is interesting. After I found out about these two, I wanted to do a bit more research and I wanted to see what other sayings I could find that were similar to these. I stumbled upon a few. So the next one I have is when something is difficult, or kind of something difficult to find, or even something difficult to do, in English we would say it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Because a needle is very small and there's lots of hay, it's nearly impossible to do, right? However, in Chinese they would say
大海捞针,
which means basically trying to find a needle in the sea. Again, I just think this is interesting. We use a haystack, use the sea. Use a haystack, use the sea. Use a haystack, use the sea. The next one I have is in English when people are put in a situation that they're unfamiliar with. They look a little bit uncomfortable. They look like maybe they shouldn't be doing what they are doing. Perhaps if somebody tries to be a teacher and they've never taught a class before and they go straight in and they try to teach something, but they just don't do it very well and they look like they're uncomfortable. In English, we could say, oh, he's like a fish out of water, right? He doesn't look comfortable in his surroundings. In Chinese, it's a little bit different. They have a saying for when people are perfectly at peace in their surroundings, or when they look like they've gone back to the surroundings that they're most comfortable with. They say 如鱼得水, 如鱼得水. I think my pronunciation is not perfect on that, but anyway, basically means like a fish in water. So this guy is very comfortable with what he's doing. He looks great. Perhaps somebody has a great career as a teacher and they quit their job and they go to become a banker, but they don't like this job. And then they go back to be a teacher again and he's like a fish in water. He looks great. He can do this. Okay, and the final one I have, which is perhaps the funniest, is in English there's a common foot disease when people have bad feet, and we call that athlete's foot. In Chinese, they call this xiang jiao, which means Hong Kong foot. Which I think is hilarious. I think that's really funny. And apparently, which adds to it, is apparently people from Hong Kong call it
新加坡脚,
which means Singapore foot, which just adds to the funniness. It just times it by 100. I think that's fantastic. That's so funny. I think we should start calling it something like French foot or German foot. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And anyway, I want to leave you guys with a question. Basically, there's one very common idiom or saying that we use all the time in English, and I reckon it's pretty common in Chinese too. I want you guys to tell me which one it is. I think it's easy to find out, and I might leave a little clue in this video if, when I rewatch the video, I'll consider leaving a little clue. Okay guys, well, thanks for watching again, and if you have any other similarities, like little similarities between languages, especially English and Chinese, please let me know. I find this stuff fascinating. It's really cool, and it really fascinates me. It really makes me happy when I find out these little things. Yeah, even if it's between two other languages, you should let me know about those too. And yeah, feel free to connect with me in the comments or via any means. Fun fact for you, also the GP Gerda, the chicken skin, that's also said in Hawaii and in the Netherlands. They also use chicken skin. They don't use goosebumps, as far as I know.
As far as I know.
Zhen.